It appears that your husband has passed away in an accident while on a business trip abroad. The call from my husband's colleague during work left me in shock.
What? No way!
Overwhelmed by the sudden news, I found myself at a loss for words. According to the husband's coworker, there was a maritime disaster with many casualties. My husband's name was on the passenger list, likely resting at the bottom of the sea by now. Holding my 1-year-old child, I realized I had become a single mother. Yet, I could never have imagined that 4 years later, I would meet my husband again. At 30, I was celebrating my daughter Kathy's first birthday, at the peak of happiness. My husband, Kevin, was the CEO of his startup, always busy with late returns and weekend work. Despite the company's fluctuating sales and unstable income, I, working as a pharmacist, was determined to support him. His being away on business trips was common, and I casually wondered, what will he bring back this time? I met Kevin 2 years prior, at a mixer a friend had invited me to. His modesty and consideration stood out to me. "Hey, I'd like to talk with you." Mary, right? Are you sure? I'm not good at coming up with anything clever to say. I was drawn even more to him as he shyly averted his eyes. I took the lead in our relationship, and we were married 6 months later. Opting for a photo instead of a ceremony, we were content. His parents had passed away early, and with no close relatives, only my parents, living far away, could join us for the photo shoot. A year later, our daughter Kathy was born. As I expected, my gentle husband shared in household and parenting duties whenever he was home. I was happy. I lost my parents early and was utterly alone, dreaming of having my own family. "Thank you, Mary." He savored our happiness. However, around the time our beloved daughter turned 1, we were plunged into despair. That day, after dropping Kathy off at daycare, I went to work as usual. My job as a pharmacist required constant attention. A single mistake could be life-threatening. Amidst the tension at work, my boss received a call for me. Usually, my boss would say, "Please call back later," but this time, he hurried over in a panic. A bad feeling washed over me as I rushed to answer the phone. The person on the line, claiming to be my husband's coworker, told me something unbelievable. "I'm your husband's coworker. Your work number was listed as an emergency contact, so I'm calling you.
Has something happened to him?
Please, stay calm. Your husband. He died in a maritime accident at his destination."
What? That can't be.
I was utterly confused. My husband had left for a business trip just days ago, saying, "Take care while I'm gone. I'll bring back something for Kathy." With a smile. According to the caller, a cruise ship had capsized, and my husband's name was on the passenger list. There were many casualties, and I remembered seeing such news on TV. Among them were my husband's colleagues, but only he remained unaccounted for. They believe he may have sunk to the bottom of the sea. Hearing this, I was so distraught that I collapsed on the floor. Despite Kathy being only 1 year old, I suddenly found myself as a single mother. I had to leave matters regarding my husband to his company, but the shock was so great that I have little recollection of that time. It's all a blur. Still, I've managed to live on, carrying the burden of raising my child. 4 years have passed, and our lives have finally started to stabilize. Kathy, now 5, is a bright and talkative child, and thanks to her, I've found myself able to laugh out loud once again. Immediately after the incident 4 years ago, it was painful even to mention my husband, but recently, I've managed to catch up with friends and share updates about our lives. Among them, I've reconnected most with Barbara, my best friend from my student days. She moved far away right after graduating from college, and we had lost touch, so I hadn't even informed her of my marriage. Barbara, having divorced due to her husband's infidelity and returning to her parents' home, reached out after hearing about my situation, saying, "You've had it tough." Our reunion led to us encouraging each other as we shared our struggles. One day, during a casual chat with her, she mentioned something unexpected. "Hey, do you remember our high school classmate Elise?" "Huh? Yes. What about her?" "She's always been single, but she suddenly got married. And it was a family-only ceremony in Hawaii. I was quite close to her but got the news through social media and was shocked. Elise was stunning, a head-turner since our school days, with her radiant, clear skin, gentle almond-shaped eyes, and long lashes. Even as a woman, I found her mesmerizing. We had gone out for tea and shopping together a few times. Walking down the street with Elise, I remember how she attracted everyone's gaze. Elise got married? I wonder what kind of wonderful person she ended up with. Curious, I asked Barbara for more details. Oh, I follow her on social media, there are photos. Looking at the smartphone screen she handed me, my heart skipped a beat in shock.
What? Kevin!
Incredibly, the man in the photo closely resembled my husband, who was supposed to have died in an overseas accident. Taking a closer look at the photo, even the distinctive mole near his mouth was the same. Furthermore, Elise's comments about his modest kindness and his being all alone in the world were exactly how I knew him.
What's going on? Is Kevin alive?
Seeing my pale face, Barbara became worried, but I hesitated to tell her everything. However, I couldn't keep it from Barbara, who was concerned for me. What? Is that even possible? It's not just someone who looks like him? Are you sure you're not just imagining things because you're grieving? Skeptical, Barbara looked at the multiple images of Kevin I had on my phone. She, too, was taken aback but eventually said, "This? It looks exactly like him." If that was the case, my husband was alive and had betrayed me. But wait. If he was supposed to be dead, how could he marry Elise? As I pondered over everything, the pain of the past 4 years flashed before my eyes, and I burst into tears. Keep it together, Mary. Are you going to let this go?
No, no matter the reason, I can't forgive this.
Encouraged by my best friend, I resolved to seek revenge. Barbara then reached out to Elise to catch up and learn about her recent life, unveiling a shocking truth. Can you believe something like this would happen?
Yeah.
It's like something out of a drama. Still, it's strange. I definitely received a call from his company saying he had died. With these doubts, I decided to look into my husband's situation more thoroughly. 2 weeks later, I took a day off and left Kathy with Barbara, then set out for the town outside the state where Elise lived, aiming to visit the boutique where she worked. Upon entering the shop, Elise immediately noticed me and approached with a surprised yet welcoming smile. What? Mary? Wow, what a surprise. It's been so long. Yes, it's been years. Barbara told me you work here. Really? That brings back memories. Elise was delighted to see me again, though my true purpose was to investigate my husband, not merely to catch up with her. Feeling a bit guilty for deceiving her, I silently apologized in my heart. As her shift was about to end, I seized the moment to invite her out. Hey, since we're here, how about we grab some dinner? That sounds great. Let's do it. And maybe I could meet your husband too? You got married, right? How about coming over to my place? It's a bit messy, though. Of course, I happily accepted her offer. I've lucked out. I'll see everything with my own eyes. Concealing my resolve, I accompanied Elise to her home. Honey, I'm home. Welcome back, Elise. Kevin greeted his wife with a smile. However, when I peeped out from behind Elise with a "Hi, nice to meet you," his eyes widened in shock. Up close, it was unmistakably Kevin. You're alive. Who are you? He frowned, scrutinizing me. What's with that face? So insincere. I couldn't back down now and pressed him further. Have you forgotten my face? I'm sorry, but I don't recognize you. Who are you? Overhearing our conversation, Elise was surprised but suggested, let's go inside and talk it over. Once we were seated in the living room, Elise quietly began to speak. Mary, do you know this man? There's a situation with him. I had already heard from Barbara over the phone, but according to Elise, her husband had amnesia from an accident, not even knowing his own name and calling himself Tony. They couldn't legally marry due to his memory loss, but she was drawn to his kindness and had a ceremony. Is Kevin truly suffering from memory loss, or is he deceiving Elise too? At this point, I couldn't tell, but he seemed unusually restless and avoided eye contact. Feeling something was off, I decided to confront him.
Actually, he's a notorious con artist. He's been caught by the police several times. Elise, did he take something from you? I heard he pretends to have amnesia to scam people. I'm not a con artist. I just don't remember anything. Please understand.
Kevin desperately tried to deny it, his eyes darting around, sweat forming on his forehead.
Yes, you are. I was deceived too. I have pictures from that time. Oh, and I have pictures of Kathy too.
Kathy? Who's that? Tony mentioned her in his sleep once. As I attempted to show the pictures of my husband and Kathy on my phone, Kevin exclaimed sharply.
Stop it, Mary! Don't!
At that moment, Elise's expression changed.
Tony, how do you know Mary's name? I haven't introduced her yet. I just remembered something. But my head hurts terribly.
As Kevin tried to wriggle out of the situation, I confronted him with something decisive. I presented an investigation report from a detective I'd hired on my husband.
You've been lying to me too. Even the story about being a CEO was a lie. Your parents are alive and well, running a farm, aren't they?
According to the detective, the story about his overseas business trip was also fabricated. Someone had likely been asked to call me, pretending to be from his company, to make it seem like he had died in an accident. Elise, convinced of the truth in the investigation report, glared at Kevin.
Pretending to have amnesia just to gain my sympathy? That's the lowest of the low.
Realizing he couldn't escape, Kevin began to spew excuses.
Please understand. It's only Elise I love. It was love at first sight.
Incredibly, after marrying me, Kevin had fallen for Elise after finding a photo of her in my album. He had scoured my notebook and, like a detective, tracked down her family's address. Thinking he couldn't approach Elise as a married man with a child, he decided to erase his existence by fleeing from me.
There was this cruise ship accident on the news at the time. I thought I could use that to pretend I had died.
It was convenient for him, as he had lied about going on a business trip abroad. He had hired someone to call me, pretending to be from his company, as the detective had discovered.
If you wanted to be with Elise, asking me for a divorce would have been simpler. There was no need for such an elaborate lie. Then I'd have to pay you alimony and child support. If I was dead from an accident, my wallet wouldn't suffer, right?
I was speechless at his appalling reasoning. And so, Kevin, feigning amnesia, successfully garnered Elise's sympathy and became her lover. All the expenses for their new home, the wedding, and living costs were borne by Elise.
I can't believe it. I was completely fooled.
Enraged, Elise, Kevin attempted to cling to her.
I just wanted to be with you. I tried so hard.
At that moment, I felt a burning anger.
Did you ever think about me or Kathy? Unbelievable. It can't be helped when I meet my soulmate.
Kevin retorted without a hint of remorse. However, Elise's gaze had turned ice cold.
I don't need someone like this. You've opened my eyes. We're in love. Forgive me.
Despite Kevin's pathetic pleas, Elise kicked him away fiercely.
It's useless. I want every penny I spent on you back. I don't have any savings. That's impossible.
Even as he begged, Elise's expression remained unmoved, prompting him to turn to me desperately.
Come on, Mary, help me out. I have no obligation to help a stranger. Talk in your sleep, why don't you?
After being declared missing for 3 years, Kevin and I were legally divorced, making us less than strangers.
I'll be seeking alimony and child support from you, and I'll sue for fraud. Be prepared. This wasn't how it was supposed to go.
Kevin collapsed in tears, but it was all his own doing. Later, he was taken away by the police. For abandoning his wife and child and tricking Elise into paying large sums of money, he was found guilty and fired from his job. I demanded $30,000 in alimony and $600 a month in child support, all to be paid at once. Elise, too, demanded $50,000 for the wedding, living expenses, and alimony. His parents, who he had lied about being deceased, were furious upon learning the truth and disowned Kevin. Truly alone, he now toils in hard labor from dawn to dusk to pay off his debts to Elise and me. Meanwhile, a peaceful everyday life with Kathy has returned to me. I keep in touch with Barbara and Elise, enjoying my days, and I'm looking forward to meeting a new partner in life.